Hello and welcome everyone. It is time to enter the Kumite. But first, if you enjoy the content we're creating, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. You can also find us on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and of course Spotify. So let's get right into it. Today we will be visiting Hawaii to find our next prospect, Christian the Warrior Lee. Christian was born in British Columbia, Canada. He and his family moved to Hawaii when he was just 5 years old. He's currently 23 today and comes from a family of martial artists. His father, his mother, his father being his main head coach. His two sisters, Angela Lee and Victoria Lee, are also accomplished fighters. Angela Lee being a champion of 1FC, and Victoria Lee really proving herself. I believe she's 2-0 right now, looking like a quality prospect. At the 2012 USA Pancration National Championships, Lee won 2 national titles and 1 silver medal. He also won the World Championship in the MMA division at the 2012 World Pancration Athlema Federation Championships. Since he's signed with 1FC, he has accumulated an impressive record of 15-3. It's extra impressive given his age. He joined when he was just 17 years old and only had 1 previous fight in another organization. So, he's currently 14-3 within the 1FC specifically. But yes, he's the FILA Grappling World Championship, the 2013 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu boys age group 14 to 15, 66 kilograms. He got gold. And then he also competed in the FILA Grappling World Championship, 2013 Submission Wrestling, age 14 to 15, 66 kilograms, gold as well. So he's a very established grappler. In one championship, he is the 1 lightweight champion. He has had 2 successful title defenses. He's also the 2019 1 lightweight world Grand Prix champion. So he brought that grappling over. He's been working on his striking. It's progressively gotten better, and it was never bad either. He's a very well-rounded fighter, but let's bring him to the microscope. Let's see what he's got. Let's analyze his grappling. He has great slams and suplexes. In his fight with Mahmoud Mohammed, you see him get a full grip around his legs, lift him off the ground over his shoulders, and throw himself backwards into a slam. It was clean, and this slam landed him in the north-south position where he proceeded to wrap up a Kimura and get the finish. He also has a KO slam against Kotetsu Boku, as well as a nasty DQ loss for implementing an illegal suplex. That suplex was devastating to watch, and I thought it was executed perfectly. I'm not sure exactly what made this an illegal suplex, so if anybody knows, please let me know down in the comments and explain it for all of us. His elbows are nasty, man. When he's on top, he's constantly fitting in the sharp elbows. Even the way that he's throwing him, it's more like he's trying to cut his opponents rather than go for the KO. He also fits in his knees to the head to the grounded opponent as well. As someone who primarily watches UFC, it always makes me tense up a little bit while seeing it. But in all reality, I don't think they should be banned. Yes, they can be dangerous, but for the most part, you can't really put all of your weight into it based on your position. I would like to see UFC begin to allow these. As I think it just makes wrestlers look more boring than they really are. You're taking away tools, weapons from a wrestler. Imagine a stronger wrestler than you holding you in a sprawled position and kneeing you in the head. Ultimately, I think this rule just hurts wrestlers, man. I feel that they could end fights more often if knees to a ground opponent were allowed. Just my 2 cents there. His transitions from striking to grappling are fantastic. I believe that's how he actually gets the majority of his takedowns. He opens up the opportunity to get in deep on a takedown by threatening them and feigning them on the feet. His submissions are aggressive. If he has you in the sprawl position, he likes to throw knees to the head until you open up on the wrist control. Then he slams you on your head while wrapping up a guillotine or a Darce choke. When he has your head, between his arm and his torso, he'll just pull your head down and try to slam your head into the ground with a lot of intention and putting their weight into it. Let's get into his striking. I feel like he's more of a grappler, but he does have good striking, and his striking really is what leads him, to setting up a lot of his grappling transitions. He has a probing left hand. He's always looking to hand fight, parry the jab to land it straight. He, he has a fairly strong lead head kick. It's dangerous, and he can mask it behind his footwork. He likes to feint on his steps, change direction, reset. But I really wish he wouldn't throw them naked. It could get him in some trouble at some point. Then again, strong grapplers get away with a lot on the feet. One thing I would like for him to work on is his stance switch after throwing his power straight. He does a good job at following through with the stance switch, but when he decides to follow up with more of a combo and throw with his lead hand again, he falls a little static in his stance. It's almost as if he's between stances when he's throwing the lead hand over his power straight, after his power straight. This could end up getting him caught against a high-level counter striker. He uses his takedown threat to open up the chance to land one of his big overhands and hooks. That's how he lands the majority of his power shots. That actually hurts his opponents for the most part. Feinting that takedown, going real deep on it, and then throwing that overhand. He catches a lot of people with it because they respect his grappling, because they've seen what his slams can do. He likes to engage in the chess match of feinting, and while he's great at feints, he is a bit reactionary to them. So he can struggle with someone who's always setting traps. But he's really good at keeping his head off the center line, though, so I think those counters aren't going to be that easy to land. Now let's get into his future plans. Christian Lee is scheduled to defend his lightweight title against Yoon. Now, Yoon is a legitimate world-class fighter. He put on a fantastic performance against Eddie Alvarez and actually pulled out the win. And as you may know, Eddie Alvarez was a former UFC lightweight champion. He has a TK win over Dos Anjos, and Dos Anjos has wins over some of the UFC's best welterweights. Just a little MMA math for you there, so you can determine the value of Christian Lee's fight stock. All jokes aside, the ONE FC is filled with incredible talent, and Christian Lee is the real deal. He's young, he's intelligent, and he fights like a dog when he's in there. Now, I could see Christian Lee being a real threat in the UFC. Although ONE FC is probably paying him great and taking care of their superstars. But if he did come to the UFC, I'd prefer to see him in the featherweight division. If he can safely and healthily make it to featherweight, I could see a UFC champion. I could see it. I mean, it's a reach, but I could see it. I say it's a reach, but he's a lightweight champion of ONE FC, so it's not that much of a reach, is it? He's still young. He's still very young. In the lightweight division, I think the competition's a bit too stiff, and I feel like he'd need to be a bit stronger, a bit bigger and stronger to implement his type of game plan. Here's about how I think he'd do against the UFC's top 10, in case you guys were interested. I'll do the lightweight because that's what he's competing at right now. I'm not going to predict that he's going to go to featherweight if he's not. But starting off, we got Gregor Gillespie. And this, I'm going off the UFC website's top 10. So I've seen some different lists, and I thought the top 10 and top 15 looked a little different. I guess I was wrong. But going off the UFC's website, number 10, Gregor Gillespie. I say Christian Lee actually loses to Gregor Gillespie. I know I'm hyping him up right now, but I think Gillespie's just a little bit too strong in the grappling department, and he's just relentless enough to keep up with Christian. I do think that Gillespie is physically stronger here, but I do see Lee having an advantage on the feet, so you never know. Kevin Lee landed a killer head kick that knocked Gillespie out. So, anything can happen. Conor McGregor, number 9. I say he beats McGregor by a later submission. I think he's hard to hit. I think he's a good chin, and he's going to be all over McGregor. Dan Hooker, number 8. I see something similar to the Michael Chandler fight where Lee fakes low and comes up over the top with a big hook or overhand. And I think it catches Dan Hooker. And I think if he can get Dan Hooker underneath him, I think Dan Hooker's going to have a bad time. I think he's going to have a hard time surviving a round if he gets a strong takedown early in the round. RDA. I think he'll be pretty relentless with RDA, and I see him overwhelming him. Maybe not after the first round or second round, but further goes in the fight, I see him overwhelming RDA. RDA likes to fight really technically these days, which is good to see as he's getting older. He's getting smarter. Tony Ferguson, I think he beats Tony today. the Tony Ferguson of today. I think he can do whatever he wants to Tony on the ground. I hate to say that, because I was a big believer in the rubber guard, but I don't know. Tony just hasn't been able to make it work in these higher stages of the top 10. I don't want to write off the rubber guard, though. We'll just have to see. But I see him I see Lee pretty easily being able to mix up his takedowns with his power straights. I see him not being too concerned about what Tony throws back at him. I see him catching Tony in that one with his head on the center line right after a takedown feint. I see it. Like, gets a couple takedowns on Tony early. Tony gets really frustrated about getting held down because, Tony's good at surviving on the ground for the most part. Okay, next up, Islam Makhachev, number 5. I got to go with Islam. I think Islam will have the advantage in the grappling department for sure. Lee is no slouch on the ground, but him being a very well-rounded fighter is really what makes him dangerous and really what makes his grappling work. Chandler, number 4. This one is a bit of a toss-up for me. Either fighter can catch the other, but I think Chandler might be a stronger grappler. Man, I really don't know about this one, but I think I'll go with Chandler. That's hard to say, but I think I will go with Chandler. Beneil Dariush, I think Christian's dogfight style would actually get him the win in this one. Dariush is good, though, man. He's really strong, but I think Christian's just a little bit stronger everywhere. I think so. Justin Gaethje, number 2. I think the new technical Gaethje will be too much for Lee. I think he's going to find some nice counter strikes in there. I think he's not going to be too concerned with Lee's grappling. I think Gaethje will be able to, compete in that dog fight and still take less damage. But I am a bit concerned for Gaethje after watching the pressure of Khabib gas him out by the first round. So I don't know exactly what to think of that. Okay, number 1, Poirier. Dustin Poirier. That would be a good fight. Poirier's inside boxing and ability to read a situation is very dangerous for Lee. Poirier is also a dog in the cage and can go all 5 rounds like that. I think Poirier would take it. But I could see Poirier getting tapped out by Christian. Either way, Christian would need more experience for a fight like that. Poirier is not only really good and very well-rounded, he's also very seasoned. He's a seasoned fighter. He knows how to use what he has, and he knows how to go with the flow of a fight, even if it's not going in his direction at that time. And finally, for the moment you've all been waiting for, Charles Oliveira, the champion. I think Charlie Olives takes it, man. I don't think Lee wants to be on the ground with him, and I don't think his wrestling threat will be there for Charles. I see Christian running into a submission after throwing an overhand and missing. But Charles stands with his head on the center line, really high up. He's not much of an in-and-out bouncing style fighter. I do see Christian being able to land some of those big overhands, some of those big hooks early on, because he uses that in-and-out style, and I think that style is going to give Charles Oliveira a lot of problems. And I see Lee, catching a couple of those big hands, and it might even hurt Charles, but at the end of the day, I think Charles crisp boxing is going to solve a lot of the problems that Lee would try to create. I think Charles Oliveira can meet him on the frontier of his mix-up and really mess with him. But there are all kinds of other components that I could go into from here. But I like to keep the videos somewhat relatively short and sweet. With that, I will go ahead and wrap up my thoughts on Christian the Warrior Lee. I'd like to thank everyone for entering the Kumite with us here today. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, guys, this is not a sport. You don't play fight.